When my friend Sarah turned 68, she made a confession that stunned me. "I feel more alone now than I ever have," she admitted quietly. "I've got family around, but something's missing. I had dozens of friends throughout my life, but now I can count my close connections on one hand and still have fingers left over." But before we jump back into the video, let us know where you're watching from. And if you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow I've got something really special for you. And now back to the video. Sarah's experience isn't unique. Research shows that social circles shrink by nearly 30% after age 60, and feelings of loneliness increase dramatically, even among people who were social butterflies in their younger years. Today, I'm going to share the rarely discussed truth about why friendships become more challenging after 60, and the science-backed strategies that can help you maintain and even strengthen your social connections during this critical life stage. What you'll learn isn't just about having people to talk to, it's about protecting your health, happiness, and even your cognitive function as you age. Friendships in our later years exist at a paradoxical intersection. Precisely when social connections become most valuable for our health and well-being, they often become more difficult to maintain and establish. This isn't just anecdotal observation. It's supported by decades of research from institutions like the Stanford Center on Longevity and the Harvard Study of Adult Development. The statistics are sobering. Studies show that the average American's friendship network peaks at around age 25, with approximately 40 meaningful connections, gradually decreases through middle age, and then drops significantly after 60, often to fewer than 15 close contacts. Yet simultaneously, research conclusively demonstrates that robust social connections in later life are associated with lower rates of depression, better cardiovascular health, stronger immune function, and even a 50% reduced risk of dementia. What makes this topic particularly important is that most of us don't anticipate this friendship challenge. We assume our social circles will naturally persist throughout our lives, not recognizing the unique barriers that emerge after 60, barriers that require specific strategies to overcome. These challenges stem from multiple factors. Retirement removes workplace connections that often provided daily social interaction. Adult children and family responsibilities may dominate remaining social energy. Mobility limitations can make getting together more difficult. And the loss of friends to relocation, illness, or death creates vacancies in our social networks that become harder to fill as we age. The good news is that understanding these challenges is the first step toward addressing them effectively. Today, I'll share 6 evidence-based insights about friendship after 60, explaining both why certain difficulties arise and specific strategies for overcoming them. By the end of this video, you'll have practical tools for maintaining existing friendships and creating new ones that can enrich your life for decades to come. Before we dive into these insights, I want to highlight something important. The final strategy I'll share, insight number 6, is perhaps the most counterintuitive yet powerful approach to friendship after 60. It challenges conventional wisdom about how relationships form at this life stage, but research shows it can increase meaningful social connections by up to 40% within just 6 months. Throughout this video, I'll also address the question many viewers have asked me: is it really possible to form deep, meaningful friendships later in life? Or is that a capability we lose with age? The research on this topic is both surprising and encouraging. Stay with me until the end, because I'll also share a simple 3-question assessment that can help you evaluate the current state of your friendship network and identify your specific opportunity areas for strengthening social connections in ways that align with your personality and preferences. The first critical insight about senior friendships is that the infrastructure that once supported your social connections undergoes a fundamental transformation after 60, requiring intentional replacement strategies. Richard, a 72-year-old former project manager, described this shift perfectly. "When I was working, friendship happened almost automatically. I saw the same people every day. We had shared experiences and challenges, and relationships just naturally developed. After retirement, I realized I'd lost not just my colleagues, but the entire system that made friendship easy. Suddenly I had to create both the connections and the contexts for those connections, and I wasn't prepared for how much work that would be. Here's why this matters. Throughout most of our adult lives, three primary structures support friendship formation and maintenance: work environments, child-raising communities, and structured organizations. These systems create what sociologists call forced repeated interactions, the regular, ongoing contact that allows relationships to develop organically without significant conscious effort. After 60, many people simultaneously lose access to all three of these friendship infrastructures as they retire, become empty nesters, and scale back organizational involvements. The impact is profound. Research from the University of Michigan found that the average person over 65 spends less than 8% of their waking hours in social interaction outside their immediate household, down from nearly 33% during middle age. Without the built-in structures that previously facilitated connection, many seniors find themselves socially adrift, despite having free time and a desire for companionship. Ask yourself, which friendship infrastructures have you lost in recent years? What regular, structured social contexts still exist in your life? How much of your past social life was built around systems that no longer play an active role in your weekly routine? The most effective response is creating intentional replacement infrastructures. This means establishing new regular contexts for repeated interaction: weekly classes, volunteer commitments, faith communities, or recurring group activities. The key element is consistency, meeting with the same people in the same context regularly over time. Research shows that even simple structures like a standing weekly coffee date or monthly book club provide the foundation for meaningful relationships to develop and thrive. As Richard eventually discovered, I had to stop waiting for friendships to happen naturally and start creating the conditions where they could grow. Once I established those regular touchpoints in my week, everything got easier. The second insight is that the actual process of friendship formation changes significantly after 60, requiring different approaches than those that worked earlier in life. Elaine, a 67-year-old who relocated after retirement, struggled to form connections in her new community, despite being naturally outgoing. "I kept having pleasant conversations that never deepened into real friendship," she explained. "I couldn't understand why techniques that had always worked for me weren't effective anymore. It was like trying to use an outdated instruction manual." Elaine was experiencing the changed dynamics of friendship formation that many seniors encounter. Here's why this matters. Research from the field of social psychology shows that friendship formation throughout most of adulthood follows a relatively predictable pattern of escalating self-disclosure and reciprocity. However, studies from the University of Chicago suggest that after 60, this pattern shifts significantly. Older adults tend to be more selective about new relationships, have less patience for superficial connections, and often skip the traditional small talk phase of relationship building, instead preferring meaningful conversations from the outset. Additionally, while younger adults often build friendships around shared activities or interests, friendship formation after 60 hinges more heavily on shared values and compatible communication styles. This means strategies that worked well for making friends in your 30s or 40s may be ineffective now, creating frustration and false starts in relationship building. The impact of this shift can be significant discouragement and even withdrawal from social attempts when previous approaches fail. Many seniors interpret these difficulties as personal rejection or evidence that they've forgotten how to make friends, rather than recognizing the need for adjusted strategies. Ask yourself, have you noticed that conversations with potential new friends seem to stall at a superficial level? Do you find yourself collecting pleasant acquaintances but struggling to develop deeper connections? Have you been trying to replicate friendship patterns from earlier life stages without success? The most effective approach acknowledges these changed dynamics. Research shows that friendships after 60 develop most successfully when interactions involve meaningful conversation, emphasize mutual values, and include appropriate vulnerability, rather than focusing primarily on shared activities or surface-level commonalities. Specifically, conversations that explore life experiences, personal beliefs, and future hopes create stronger bonds than discussions of news, weather, or general interests. As Elaine discovered, once I understood that friendship at this stage is less about doing things together and more about connecting meaningfully when we're together, everything changed. I stopped trying to organize activities and started having deeper conversations, and real friendships finally began to develop. The third insight about senior friendships involves what sociologists call the friendship math problem. The reality that after 60, friendship losses often occur without corresponding gains, creating a cumulative social deficit. Thomas, a 74-year-old widower, described watching his social circle steadily contract. In the past 5 years, 2 close friends died, 3 moved away to be near children, and several others have health limitations that prevent them from being as active. It's like watching a garden slowly lose plants without being able to add new ones. I didn't realize how quickly things could change. Thomas was experiencing the challenging mathematics of later life friendship. Here's why this matters. Research from the Stanford Center on Longevity shows that most adults over 65 lose an average of 3 to 4 significant social connections per decade, due to death, relocation, health limitations, or caregiving responsibilities. While this rate of loss would be manageable if balanced by new relationship formation, the same research indicates most seniors add fewer than 2 new close connections during the same time frame, creating a net friendship deficit that compounds. Over time, this imbalance creates a particular risk, because research clearly demonstrates that it's the absolute number of meaningful connections, not just their quality, that provides protective health benefits. A longitudinal study from the University of Chicago found that seniors with fewer than 5 close social connections showed significantly higher rates of depression, cognitive decline, and even mortality compared to those with larger social networks, regardless of how deep those individual connections were. Ask yourself, how many close friends have you lost access to in the past 5 years? How many new meaningful connections have you formed in the same period? Are you approaching or already experiencing a friendship deficit? The most effective response is twofold: intentional friendship maintenance with existing connections and aggressive cultivation of new relationships before they're urgently needed. Research from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships suggests that maintaining at least one social connection-building activity weekly is associated with stable or growing social networks, even in advanced age. Examples include regular group classes, community involvement, volunteering, and faith community participation. As Thomas ultimately discovered, I realized I couldn't wait until I felt lonely to start building new connections. It needed to be proactive while I still had energy and mobility. Once I committed to weekly volunteering and joined Amen's discussion group, I gradually began developing new friendships that helped offset the inevitable losses. The fourth insight about senior friendships is that expectations about what friendship looks like after 60 often need significant recalibration, particularly regarding frequency and mode of interaction. Margaret, a 70-year-old who prided herself on maintaining close friendships throughout life, found herself increasingly frustrated with her social connections. I was constantly disappointed that friends couldn't get together more often or stay as long when we did meet. I took it personally until I realized most of them were dealing with caregiving responsibilities, health issues, or energy limitations. My expectations were creating unnecessary hurt on both sides. Margaret was experiencing the mismatch between friendship expectations formed in earlier life stages and the realities of connection after 60. Here's why this matters. Research from the University of Michigan shows that adults typically form their core expectations about friendship, including frequency of contact, types of shared activities, and communication patterns during early and middle adulthood. These expectations often remain fixed even as circumstances change dramatically in later life, creating frustration and perceived relationship failures that actually reflect changed capacities rather than reduced caring. The impact of misaligned expectations can be severe. A study in The Gerontologist found that seniors who maintained rigid friendship expectations reported significantly higher rates of perceived social isolation and relationship dissatisfaction compared to those who adjusted their expectations to accommodate the changing realities of aging. These changes include recognizing that many peers face constraints like caregiving responsibilities, health limitations, reduced energy, fixed incomes, or driving restrictions that limit their availability, without reflecting their level of caring. Additionally, friendship in later life often shifts from primarily activity-based to more conversation-focused, from spontaneous to planned, and from frequent short interactions to less frequent but deeper connections. Ask yourself, are you feeling disappointed by friends' availability or engagement? Have you updated your friendship expectations since turning 60? Or are you still using models from earlier life stages? Are you interpreting changed interaction patterns as personal rejection rather than adapting to new realities? The most effective approach involves consciously recalibrating expectations to focus on connection quality rather than frequency or duration, embracing multiple communication modes including phone and digital options, planning gatherings further in advance, and measuring friendship success by mutual care rather than time spent together or activities shared. As Margaret eventually realized, when I stopped expecting my friendships to look like they did in my 40s and 50s and started appreciating the connections we could maintain now, my disappointment vanished. Our relationships actually deepened once I stopped focusing on what we couldn't do together and appreciated what we could. The fifth insight about senior friendships involves the complex role technology plays, simultaneously offering powerful connection tools while creating new barriers and complications. James, a 77-year-old who considered himself reasonably tech-savvy, found himself increasingly excluded from his social circle's communication. Suddenly, everyone was making plans on WhatsApp and sharing updates on Instagram. My flip phone and occasional emails weren't enough anymore. I could feel myself being unintentionally phased out of the group. James was experiencing the technology gap that affects many senior friendships. Here's why this matters. Digital communication has transformed social connection in ways that create both opportunities and challenges for adults over 60. Research from the Pew Research Center shows that while 86% of adults 18-29 use social media, that number drops to just 45% for adults over 65. Additionally, platforms continuously evolve, with younger seniors often comfortable with Facebook and email while struggling with newer platforms like Instagram, TikTok, or messaging apps that their friends, family, and potential new connections may prefer. The impact works in both directions. Technology can help maintain connections despite mobility limitations, geographic distance, or health constraints. A study in the Journals of Gerontology found that seniors who used video calling technology reported significantly less loneliness than non-users. However, the continuous evolution of platforms creates ongoing learning curves, and the shift from in-person to digital communication can feel less fulfilling for those who value physical presence. This technological divide also affects friendship formation. Many community groups, classes, and organizations now organize primarily through digital platforms, making it harder for less tech-savvy seniors to discover and join potential friendship opportunities. Ask yourself, are you missing social connections or opportunities because of technology gaps? Do you find yourself excluded from communication channels where friends or family coordinate activities? Are you comfortable enough with digital tools to use them for maintaining and building relationships? The most effective approach is twofold. First, identify and master the 2 to 3 specific platforms most essential for your core relationships, rather than trying to keep up with every new tool. Second, be proactive about requesting alternative communication options when needed, and establish regular in-person connection points that don't require digital coordination. As James discovered after getting help setting up WhatsApp, I didn't need to become a technology expert. I just needed to learn the specific tools my friends were using. Once I could participate in the group conversations again, I stopped missing gatherings and feeling left out. The learning curve was worth it. The sixth insight, and perhaps the most powerful, is that cross-generational friendships offer unique advantages for adults over 60, yet most seniors focus exclusively on peer relationships. Elena, an active 81-year-old, found her social world expanding in unexpected ways after joining a mixed-age community choir. Initially, I was looking for people my own age who shared my musical interests. What surprised me was how much more I enjoyed the friendships that developed with people in their 40s and 50s. They brought different perspectives, kept me current, and didn't want to talk about health problems constantly. Now some of my closest friends are decades younger than me. Eleanor had discovered the unique benefits of cross-generational connection. Here's why this matters. Research from multiple disciplines shows that cross-generational relationships offer distinct advantages over exclusively peer-based social networks. After 60, a study published in The Gerontologist found that seniors with age-diverse friendship circles reported higher levels of subjective well-being, greater purpose, and more social engagement than those whose connections were primarily with age peers. These benefits stem from several factors. Younger friends typically have different health trajectories, reducing the likelihood of simultaneous illness or loss. They often introduce older adults to new ideas, technologies, and experiences, promoting continued growth and learning. And cross-generational. Friendships help combat age segregation and stereotyping on both sides, creating more meaningful integration in community life. The impact can be transformative. Research from the Stanford Center on Longevity's Sightlines project found that older adults with cross-generational social networks were 28% more likely to adopt new technologies, 37% more likely to try new activities, and reported significantly lower levels of perceived isolation compared to those with primarily same-age social circles. Ask yourself, what percentage of your meaningful social connections are with people at least 15 years younger than you? Do you have contexts in your life where cross-generational friendships might naturally develop? Have you unconsciously limited your friendship possibilities by focusing primarily on people your own age? The most effective approach involves seeking activity-based contexts where people of various ages naturally mix based and shared interests rather than life stage, such as arts organizations, cause-based volunteering, skill-building classes, or faith communities. Research shows that shared purpose creates stronger bridges across generational differences than purely social activities. As Elena came to understand, I needed friends of all ages, not just people like me. The age-diverse relationships brought different gifts into my life, and together they created a much stronger social support system than any one group could provide alone. As we've explored these 6 insights about friendship after 60, the changing infrastructure, different formation processes, the math problem of losses outpacing gains, the need for recalibrated expectations, technology's complex role, and the value of cross-generational connections, a clearer picture emerges about both the challenges and opportunities in later life relationships. The science is unequivocal. Meaningful social connections remain vital for physical health, cognitive function, and emotional well-being throughout our lives. Yet maintaining and developing these relationships after 60 requires more conscious effort and different approaches than in earlier life stages. The most important takeaway is that friendship challenges after 60 aren't personal failings or evidence that you've forgotten how to connect. They're predictable outcomes of changed circumstances that require specific strategies to overcome. When seniors understand these dynamics and implement targeted approaches, research consistently shows they can maintain rich, meaningful social networks well into their 80s and beyond. Remember that the goal isn't necessarily having dozens of casual friends, but rather cultivating a sustainable network of varied connections that provide different types of support and enrichment. This might include a few deep, long-term relationships, several activity-based connections, some cross-generational friendships, and even what sociologists call consequential strangers, the regular but casual connections with neighbors, shopkeepers, or service providers that add texture to everyday life. With intentional effort, friendship remains not just possible, but deeply rewarding throughout our later years. If you found value in these insights, please consider sharing this video with someone who might benefit. Understanding these friendship dynamics can be life-changing for those struggling with social connection after 60. In the comments below, I'd love to hear about your own experiences with friendship challenges or successes in later life. Your insights might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear. Don't forget to download our free Friendship After 60 assessment and action plan using the link in the description. This practical tool helps you evaluate your current friendship network and identify specific strategies tailored to your personality and circumstances. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive our upcoming video on how to turn casual acquaintances into meaningful friends after 60, a perfect companion to the insights we've discussed today. Thank you for investing this time in your social well-being. Remember, it's never too late to strengthen existing connections or form new ones that enrich your life.